Koalas are known to be friendly and peaceful creatures. These koalas go from time to time on a pilgrimage to a secret place and spread their spiritual message. Legalize eucalyptus, 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 eucalyptus.
Oh yes, koalas. Ese estilo lo traigo para que me entienda la gente. Guerrillero criminal aunque nunca he sido un delincuente. Caliente. Criminal te trae nuevo canto aquí. Un estilo universal de Colonia Calé. Sueno en esta radio, señor comisario. Aunque quiera no puede captarme a mí. Por el mundo internacional, ni frontera ni barrera me puede parar. Siempre sigo y mi misión siempre será sonar, acompañado por mi mensaje subliminal. Pues si la gente me escucha, se olvida de la tira y los problemas. Comienza a moverse y a festejar con este canto caliente original. Badán, es medicina, es vitamina, es lo que necesita hombre y mina, es gasolina, es cosa fina.
It's been one of the hardest things I've ever done in my whole life is to try and get the koala listed as a federal species. And in fact, since white settlement 200 years ago, Australian federal law has never protected the koalas. It's listed as vulnerable in New South Wales, and the joke is even those exploration people don't have to meet that requirement either. It's listed as vulnerable in southeast Queensland, but not in the rest of the country. So I've subsequently found out in recent times too that if the koala's not listed, you can actually buy wood that has forest stewardship on it, because they didn't even have to do anything for koalas because it's not listed. So you just realise that government has actually been stymieing the listing of the koala so that the vested interests, logging, coal mining, coal seam gas and developers do not have to meet any environmental laws. It's pretty shocking really.
Eucalyptus, 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 eucalyptus.
Oh yes, koalas. Ese estilo lo traigo para que me entienda la gente. Guerrillero criminal aunque nunca.
In our Senate documents we've basically said these are the solutions that you have to come out with, and what I basically says is no tree, no me, which has been our mantra forever, and that is we've given them a list of species that every single tree that koalas eat in the country, and even if we got that out of that Senate inquiry, an acknowledgement that those trees are important, that could be a major thing. And of course we're saying you have to list it, and one of the big strong arguments we're putting forward is who is the custodian of the koala? You know, why is it that koalas can get ripped apart by dogs, run over by cars, affected in logging coops, and no one's ultimately responsible? If it was dogs and cats, the volumes of animals that suffer, you know, the RSPCA would be there or somebody would be there speaking out. So there's a lot of things wrong for the koala, and I'm hoping the Senate inquiry will shine light on that in our parliaments.
There's something intriguing about koalas, and once you start working with them, I think you don't go back to any other animal, because if you truly love them, you'll find them fascinating and beautiful and gorgeous and loyal, and you just can't get them out from under your skin. Once they climb in under that skin, that's it. They're in. You can't work with anything else because they're just too beautiful.
I believe the koala is incredibly endangered. I think it meets critically endangered in some parts in the country. I have also seen localised extinctions, and we are very confident that there is no more than 80,000 koalas, but I personally think it's around 45 to 50,000 maximum.
Oh yes, koalas. Ese estilo lo traigo para que me entienda la gente. Guerrillero criminal aunque nunca.
I do feel so blessed actually working with the koalas because a lot of people don't realise just how special and how unique they all are. They just have such beautiful individual personalities, and it's just there's I don't think that there's any other animal that you could possibly work with who could touch you as much as a koala does, especially being an Australian. Yeah. And to see the numbers declining as rapidly as they are, it's just is absolutely heartbreaking, because koalas are Australia, basically.
With my koalas, I need to determine who has the personality and therefore the ability to do handling. So with Des, even though we are allowed to use him for 30 minutes, he averages closer to 15 minutes, and that's fine. Horton, happy to go for 30 minutes, and Hilda, she's the same. She's happy to work up to 30 minutes. So we don't push the issue, because if I push that issue with Des, what's going to happen is he's not going to enjoy the experience, and then that opens itself up to a whole bunch of problems. Now, I don't want my koalas stressed and upset, so I always err on that side of caution.
Monocle here is a very chilled out koala. He'd probably sit here all day getting lots of cuddles, whereas there are other koalas that are a little bit more uptight. So, but these guys are used to us, being touched by us. They do go through lots of health checks. They do get checked every single day because they are based here in captivity. So we need to make sure that their health is up to scratch. So they are used to us touching and poking and prodding them. So they are a lot more used to it than obviously the koalas out in the wild. They're not used to being near humans at all, and we are a natural predator to them. So if you were to ever come in contact with a wild koala, not that you probably would, because it is so rare to see them. They are very, very hard to see out in the wild. You wouldn't get too close anyway because they are so high up in the trees. But they do have the ability to scratch and bite, because that is their natural defense against any other predators. But these guys are a lot more obviously chilled out than the wild ones.
At the moment, koalas and the arable land of Australia is now under immense pressure from coal seam gas and coal. And this is a totally new threat. Over the last 20 years of my career, it's basically been urbanisation, logging and whatever, but this is a new threat, and what I have found incredibly frustrating, and now I sort of feel at least that I've got the longevity of the knowledge to be able to argue it better than I've ever been able to argue before, and that is that they are exempt. The coal miners and the coal seam gas people are exempt during exploration phase to not have to meet any environmental legislation that is in the way. Once they can actually do damage, cut down trees, and then decide, okay, we do want to mine here, and then they have to do some environmental work. So it just seems to me like the cart before the horse. And I really feel that the koala is going to be a terrific flagship for conservation for these farmers who are trying to sort of stop this in, say, water issues, because the same thing's happening. They can actually damage the water table while they're doing the boreholes for the coal seam gas, and then do the water study.
Eucalyptus, 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 eucalyptus.
Koalas. Ese estilo lo traigo para que me entienda la gente. Guerrillero criminal aunque nunca he sido un delincuente. empezará a sonar, acompañado por mi mensaje subliminal. Pues si la gente me escucha, se olvida de la tira y los problemas, comienza a moverse y a festejar con este
Males and
canto
females
caliente.
have their own habitat. Now, dominant male generally has the largest habitat, and the subordinate males and the females will have habitats that surround the dominant male's habitat. The trees that are found within the areas where these habitats overlap are called social trees, and so the koalas will meet there for social interaction, particularly obviously during breeding season, and obviously when young subordinate males are going to try and take on the dominant male, the fighting will occur within these sort of areas. So that's a loose explanation of their habitat structure. They are predominantly solitary creatures, however, so the males will maintain their own environment, their own habitat, and you won't find males living together. Females, the mothers will tolerate their daughters living with them for a longer amount of time, so anything up to sort of 3 to 4 years you might find a young female still following her mother around and living within her own habitat. But as a general rule, the males will be dispersing from their mothers at around 18 months of age, 18 months up to 2 years of age, and the girls will be dispersing from mum around 2 to 2.5 years of age.
I don't believe that the koala would be on this planet now if we hadn't have had the international support. You've only got to look at the history. In the 1920s, when we were shooting them to extinction, it was President Hoover who stopped the importation of skins into the United States. So that was the first time we didn't take care. I really believe now that, well, the US government also listed the koala in the year 2000 when President Clinton was in place. And that was at a time when Australia was land clearing, hugely. And I really believe that the people who support the Australian Koala Foundation, we're completely non-government funded. We take donations from all over the world. We are free to speak for the koalas. But as I say to every politician I ever meet, the people of the world believe they own the koala. It is not just ours. It is one of those animals that is loved universally. And so I think Australia needs to really pick up its socks and say, I want to protect this for the future of this planet.
Koalas. Ese estilo lo traigo para que me entienda la gente. Guerrillero criminal aunque nunca he sido un delincuente. Caliente. Criminal te trae nuevo canto aquí. Un estilo universal de colonia Cali. Sueno en esta